Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to speak to you again. And I'm not just talking about the size of my audience. Hi, welcome back to the Colorblind Architect Podcast. I'm your host, David. And in the intro, I kind of teased myself, joked about the size of my audience, and yeah, okay. I'm a fairly new YouTuber. I started just last year, largely because I felt a great sense of urgency at speaking truth, getting the message of truth out there. And I'm not the arbiter of truth. I don't necessarily know everything, and a lot of things I'll get wrong, but the point is that I believe it's really important that we all be willing to stand up and speak truth. And this was my way of being able to contribute to that. My way of being able to stand up and be counted, saying the things that I felt need to be said. And so, introducing this video with the first two lines of The Sound of Silence from Simon and Garfunkel. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk to you again. That song has always been a really, just a powerful song for me. It's one of those songs that you listen to and you just, over and over, you just never really quite can put a pin on exactly what it means. But it's one of those songs that it's a beautiful piece of art. Now, why do I want to talk about The Sound of Silence? Well, I don't necessarily want to talk about that specific song. I want to talk more about the general concept of silence and how it's really changed a lot. So, I was listening, one of the songs that I enjoy listening to that my teenage daughter introduced me to is a song by 21 Pilots called Car Radio. And in the song, the narrator, or the first person, in the lyrics, the person reciting the lyrics is talking about how they're sitting in silence because the slot in their car where there used to be a car radio was stolen, and now they're forced to confront their own self, their own mind. And it got me thinking about how in a lot of the protests last year, and even to this day, you hear a lot of younger people talking about the concept of silence is violence. And silence is violence is such a weird thing for me. When I hear silence is violence, I'm thinking, wow, you're such a whiny baby. Now, granted, re-listening to Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel, I kind of feel like there may be a point to the concept of silence is violence, only in that if there are wrongs, if there are injustices taking place, yes, you should definitely be speaking up and speaking about those problems. That's exactly why I'm out here making these stupid videos, trying to speak truth, right? Because I see that there are things wrong in this world. But on the flip side, I fear that silence is a lost art. Silence is something that has tragically been stripped from us. And I'm ironically saying this on a platform that steals so much silence away. Regardless of whether you're watching this on YouTube, Odyssey, or Rumble. And I post to all those platforms mostly just because I want to make sure that these messages get out and that my voice is out there saying these things. But the concept of silence, the idea that you need silence in order to ponder, to think, to overcome kind of the things that you're going through. You know, this concept of meditation or prayer is another form of that silence, right? We need silence in order to be able to process everything that's going on. Our minds are not meant to just constantly be the recipients of massive amounts of information and never have time to process that. That's part of the reason why we need sleep. I mean, a third of our life, think about that, a third of our life is spent sleeping. That's a lot of time to be doing theoretically nothing, right? But we need that time. We need that to stay healthy. In fact, we humans will actually die if we don't get enough sleep. It's an amazingly powerful thing. But I also believe we need silence. One of the things that has greatly concerned me, especially as a parent and somebody who looks out over the world, and I see what's going on, and I see that we have a suicide epidemic, we have a mental health epidemic in this world. There are so many young people, especially young people, I say, not to say that older people aren't also struggling, but especially amongst the young people, they are struggling severely with mental health. And I can't help but think, maybe, just maybe, part of the challenge that they're having is that they're not taking that time to confront themselves, to confront their own thoughts, because they have these fearful thoughts, these crazy thoughts in their mind, and they are actually literally like just shutting them out. It's too difficult to listen to. So listen to the lyrics of Car Radio by 21 Pilots. There's a part in it where it's talking about how how he's sitting there in the car, not able to listen to music, and so he's forced to confront himself, and how it's agonizing and painful. And yes, of course, it is. Confronting yourself is a very painful thing. I think of my own mental health issues, and you know, I don't necessarily like to talk about them. I mean, after all, I'm a guy, and we guys tend to internalize our mental health and not want to talk about it. And part of that is because we have the feeling like we need to project strength, which is partially true. We do, especially as husbands and fathers. We have to keep it together. We've got to keep getting stuff done. And also, even with work, right? If you go to a job and you're projecting weakness and feebleness and mental health problems, you're not going to get the better assignments. You're not going to get the promotions. So in order to succeed, you kind of have to put on this veneer of, I've got it all together. And that's not necessarily true. I think every single one of us guys, especially, we're going through a lot. We suffer a lot because we're having to carry a huge weight, especially if we are taking that responsibility, if we're not just doing whatever the hell we want. There's a lot of people out there that's what they do. They just do whatever the hell they want. And part of the problem with that is that means that they're becoming weaker and weaker. We all know if you never go to the gym, if you never exercise, then you get weaker and weaker. And same thing with our mental health. If we never try to improve our mental health, if we never try to do the hard things by, for example, sitting in silence and facing ourselves. Yes, I know it's going to be painful. It's going to be horribly painful, especially if you have a lot of issues, if you have a lot of anxiety, or if you're dealing with issues such as gender dysphoria or depression, or many of these mental health issues that people suffer through. If you're not facing these things, you're not going to be able to deal with them and process them and come to the right answer for you. And so my point is, you need to take time for yourself to sit in silence. And whether that's through prayer, which is what the church that I affiliate with teaches prayer. Calling out to a heavenly Father, a God, so to speak, and to ask and plead and counsel. But that's not the only way to process it. You can do it also through meditation. If you don't believe in a God, still meditate. Meditation is a very powerful tool, and it is a form of prayer. It's a form of reconnecting your mind with your spirit. And like I said, regardless of whether you believe in the supernatural, we need that. We need that connection to the spiritual. We need that processing of all the pain, suffering, anguish, anxiety, confusion, all these different issues that as humans we all naturally go through. We need to deal with it. So I hope you're able to find peace. If you're watching this, and if you are human, you're probably feeling a lot of the same things. I know for me, that's been a really important thing for me, is to overcome a lot of the mental health issues that I've gone through, a lot of the pain, suffering, anxiety that, like I said, we all go through. I mean, typically I would go for hikes, and then I broke my foot, and that's been a very painful thing for me. And not physical pain necessarily. I'm able to tolerate the physical pain, but to not have that outlet, to be able to go off into nature and to just commune with nature, it's really hard to do when you've got a broken foot, because you can't just go off on a trail and you can't really get away from the people and find yourself in solitude amongst nature without some kind of effort to get away from the road, right? And so that's been a really tough thing for me, and so I've been having to find other means of having that quietude. And one of the places I've had to start doing that is now in my car. When I'm driving, I'm finding myself turning off the radio or the music a lot more lately, just so that I can have that time of quiet, so I can just sit there while I'm driving and think. And so find your quiet, find your silence. The sound of silence is not scary if you face the pain, if you face the suffering and deal with it. And I'm talking about your own internal struggle. I'm not talking about the outside struggle. On the outside struggle, yes, definitely. Speak up, make your voice heard. Do not sit in silence while bad stuff is happening, if it's on the external side. But on your internal side, you need that silence so that you can regain your connection to the spirit. And with that, I hope you're well. I hope you're able to stay mentally sane. We're all living through one of the weirdest and craziest times because we have such material plenty. We have such a wonderful bounty of everything. We have food. We have housing. We have air conditioning. We have cars. Like, it is unbelievable how good we have it. And yet, as a society, we're more depressed and mentally ill than we have ever been before. And it's scary. But the solution is take a little time. Find your quiet place. And ponder. Think. And with that, I bid you adieu. I'm the Colorblind Architect. Peace out.